Okay, good morning, everybody. Have a very fairly narrow range market today. A little bit of a tell. I'm always looking for patterns and things. That is a little bit of a tell. We got a little bit of a higher pivot low with a little bit of tweezer on there. Two wicks side by side. That usually means there's some light. Somebody's lifting off selling. So we'll see if this can run a little bit. Kind of surprised. I thought we were going to break out and at least make one range extension above this junk range already, but it could just be they're accumulating a bit before they do that. So it's been a little bit of soft in here, the buying. It's not like institutionals are coming in here and pumping it, but they might be slow playing it a bit as they accumulate it a bit down in this area. But typically, when they accumulate an area, fairly soon they push price away from it. They'll drive price away from it. And so far, we're not seeing that. It's almost like they're allowing price to keep settling back as they're kind of growing their levels of buy side inventory. That's what it looks like a little bit. So, anyhow, uh, this fired off before my typical 8:32 a.m. Eastern time window. So I've gotten in here with some manual entries, giving this a chance, see if it'll run. And if it doesn't run here shortly, I will just, let go and wait for a short signal or sit on my hands till something more significant plays out and then jump over to some scalper based trades. So we'll see what we get there. But I wanted to go over this. So what I'm working on for you guys is a dual bands, and the bands have some updates to the math. So it has some additional capability over any sort of adaptive price band I've ever put out before. I do want to have markers on the outputs of these crossing points, so you can utilize those as outputs. There's some other things we can do. And the key is I want to make sure if you're using ASP, Bloodhound, Blackbird Markers Plus, you can take this and go run off and do what you want with it for in-trade management related to make it automated on your own terms. That way I don't have to keep sitting here pulling hair out of my head and I'm late 50s and I don't have any gray hair yet. And that's only because the Danish side of my family, since I have Danish background, um, has they had none of them had any gray hair like literally till into their 70s. I don't know how that happened. They were all Wisconsin paper mill and lumber yard or lumber type people, and were duck hunters and deer hunters and fishermen and all that. And then my mom met my dad at a piano bar in Minneapolis, and the rest is history. I grew up in Minnesota. So thanks to both of them, I got to freeze my ass off for 18 years of my life, and then 8 years when I was at Northwest Airlines. So yeah, that was a long time. About half my life living in Minnesota and freezing to death, at least in the winter months. But yeah, I think this will be a really, really effective way to go in and help you with some quick scalping. There's also some things I'm going to teach you with these dual bands approach when you're getting certain types of patterns, where you can literally just throw in some liquidity and see if it sticks, getting little grab patterns. And then let's go take a look when the market gets more directional in nature. This is like garbage range. Let's take a look at what you could be doing when the market gets more of a directional type move and starts building some momentum. And as I was saying, when markets do get directional and you start seeing ascension to the overall slower bands, there's just all kinds of areas you can get in as a buyer and be, working higher pivot low and lift, minor excursions outside the faster bands and lift back in, W patterns and all there's just all kinds of stuff you can see. If these bands have been up prior 10 bars and you got 10 bars of up on these, you can use those as quick scalp. There's so many ways that I used to trade with the bands over and above the, cross points that I'll have as outputs for you guys that could be dialed in with optimization. And we're going to have this in NinjaTrader 8 and Quantower in the mix. And then I can look at evolving it onto some of the other platforms. But, when the bands pinch together, the faster bands, those are, they're screaming at you. You're getting a real linear price run. So you can literally just throw liquidity in there with an ATM mechanism. So you have a fixed amount of risk and a pretty active trail. There's all kinds of ways you can use the bands on many different time frames. Another big part of this too is I'm going to completely clean up and rename the TQ bars, which stalled with my prior programmer. It's in the queue with the new guy. I'll probably name it, I think I'm going to call it uh, grid bars, and then we'll have the grid Renko. So grid Renko will be advanced. The grid bars will be created in advance. So we can use them for back testing and optimization over and above what they're already built for. So anyhow, these will be non-recalculating, non-repainting bands. So there will be no recalculating or repainting of the bands. Everything will be locked in at bar close, no per tick or per price calculation garbage. It's going to be, uh, every bar close, the next fixed segment of the bands, faster and slower, will complete. And then also, you'll have some smoothing and math calculations you can select for how the bands are being affected by a secondary smoothing capability. And what was the other thing? Oh, and you can turn on and off the second set of bands. So you can just run with one set or two set, but it'll be two sets of adaptive price bands in one indicator. So this is gonna be like a multi-role indicator. So it'll be very advanced with lots of capability. You could literally just throw this up on any chart, and when I teach you a specific range of setups, and we can have some audible alerts on certain ones tied into the output, you could just literally sit there and hand trade that all day long at will. Uh, so yeah, I got lots of stuff to teach you with the bands that I've never ever shown anybody with adaptive pricing before. And I'll just kind of show you little types of things that I always love looking for when I would trade bands manually is this kind of stuff. Actually, let me go over here. See these peaks on the slower band or on the faster bands? So I get big lift, rotation down, big lift, but the bands make a lower pivot low, and then we rotate lower. I would look for setups like that. I would look for stuff where I get higher pivot lows in the bands or sequential higher pivot lows in the bottom of the bands, but when they're tight and close together. So you can see the big W pattern here. But when these patterns are a little bit closer together for the time frame you're on, they are really effective. Another way of, having visual efficiency and seeing price and indicator patterns to help you put on quick scalp trades and related. And then there's certain ways to know when you're in a hard trend, developing trend, hard trend, and so on. So I think you guys are going to freak on my new bands. The amount of emails I'm getting, I can tell people really, wow, it's like, I know guys wanted bands. I didn't know you wanted them again that bad. So it's like, let's put out something new and refreshed and efficientized to the current NT8 build and give you some additional math and smoothing to look at different types of math applied to the bands in a they do not recalculate, they do not repaint. So it should be a wondrous new addition to the mix for those of you that want to do Battle of the Bands. So anyhow, just want to give you an update. All kinds of good stuff on deck. I'll be running our trade room on Thursday. So day after tomorrow, I'll be running the trade room. I'm going to open up the grid algo trade room 10 minutes before the U.S. cash session market. So cash session markets, there we go. Say that fast 3 times. So I will open up the room at 0920 hours, New York City time. So 0920, 0930 is the U.S. cash markets open. Come on, market, let's do something. Let's not chop around. We just had Veterans Day. and they sold it. They sold the markets on Veterans Day. How rare is that? Remember, we're in seasonality. Big funds and institutionals like to pump these markets into the end of the year. It's not guaranteed, but they love to do it because they want to clean up and pretty up their portfolios so they can get their bonuses. So this is November and December is kind of like the power hour for the year. They pump things up, pretty up their portfolios. They, start cashing out some of the high flyers and moving some of their portfolios a bit defensive into the end of the year to lock in their earnings and their gains. And if they hit certain benchmark levels of performance, the top, the principals and some of the top trade desk manager people get bonuses. So there you have it. More great stuff about to hit from the Grid Algo program. If you have any questions, info@gridalgo.com. Talk to y'all later.